I've been using the new M2 MacBook Air for about 2 weeks now, so in today's video I'm going to share my experience with you guys. But before I get started, don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you enjoy this type of content and subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed yet. This video is sponsored by SetApp, an incredible cross-platform suite which gives you access to over 200 iOS and macOS applications without any additional cost. You only need to pay for your subscription and choose the apps that you'd like to use. Now, a great benefit is that you can start a free trial when you use the link listed down below in the description. So starting off, as I mentioned, this is the all-new M2 MacBook Air, and I chose the new midnight color, but it's also available in 3 other finishes: space gray, silver, and starlight, which is the new gold, and they all come with a matching braided MagSafe cable. Briefly talking about specs, the new MacBook Air is now powered by the M2 processor. It has the same 8-core CPU as M1. It now has up to 8 or 10-core GPU instead of 7, and it can be configured with up to 24 gigabytes of RAM. Apple offers the same storage options for both models, the M1 or the M2 MacBook Air, and this is the base model, so it has 8 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage. Also, Apple says that the M2 version is 1.4 times faster than its predecessor. I will be talking about performance in a few tests that I made in a minute, but now I want to focus in my experience while using it. I'll start off with design, which is one of the most evident differences between the two versions, and I have to say that I completely love it. Here I also have the M1 MacBook Air that has that wedge-shaped design, whereas the new one doesn't. It does look a lot more like the new MacBook Pros with the squared design. You may think that the older model feels thinner and lighter because it has that wedge-shaped design with the thinner end, but it's actually the opposite. The M1 MacBook Air is a little bit rounded at the top and at the bottom of it. It's a little bit hard to explain, but it actually feels a lot bulkier than the M2 version. I also have to talk about this new midnight color. It is a dark gray with a hint of blue, and it changes depending on the light that you're under. I basically fell in love with it as soon as I saw it at the event, and of course, I had to purchase that one. Yes, it does collect a ton of fingerprints, so if that bothers you, this may not be the right color for you. But if you still love it anyways, I would definitely recommend purchasing a case or a skin for it. The new MacBook Air now has the notch, which gives room to a bigger 13.6 liquid retina display with 500 nits of brightness. If you hate the notch, I wouldn't really worry about it because it does stay hidden for the majority of time, but I like having more display area to work with. Now, a quick fact about this new MacBook: the speakers moved and they're not placed on the sides of it anymore. It is now placed in between the display and keyboard, which is really cool, and they do sound great, especially if you consider the size of this MacBook. For FaceTime calls, you do have the 1080p camera and the 3 mic array. And now, something that I really love about this new MacBook is, of course, its portability. It is so thin and light that you can take it anywhere. And because it is so thin and light, it also fits anywhere. It's so convenient. The downside, in my experience, is that this MacBook Air is not as comfortable to use on my lap as a bigger computer is. It is hard to explain, but I believe that this could be happening because I am not tiny. This is hard to explain. I am tall and I am a big woman, so your experience may be different if you're shorter or thinner, for example. Still talking about design, the Magic Keyboard has full height function keys and they are easy to access, and of course, Touch ID, which I love, which makes it a lot easier for you to unlock your Mac, authenticate apps, use Apple Pay, and etc. Now, connectivity. This year, Apple brought back the MagSafe power connector to the MacBook Air, and I have to say that I'm also really happy with it. The main benefits are that it frees up both Thunderbolt ports in case you need to use more than one accessory. You don't have to worry about using one Thunderbolt port to charge your MacBook. And of course, it prevents your MacBook from falling off a table if someone bumps over it, for example. About the price, I really do believe that Apple should have released it starting at $999 while keeping the M1 MacBook Air in the lineup for a reduced price. But I guess we cannot have everything, and another suggestion would be to start the base model at 512 gigabytes of storage instead of 256. I believe that would have been more fair. And before I go, I made a few tests comparing the M1 and M2 versions, and they prove my point that yes, the M2 MacBook Air is extremely efficient, but the M1 version was already pretty powerful. And even though the SSD speed is lower in the base model of the M2 compared to the base model of the M1 MacBook Air, in many real-life tests, the results were about the same. So if you're worried about this, I wouldn't. For example, I tried compressing and then decompressing a 6 gigabyte folder on both M1 and M2 MacBooks, and they took about the same amount of time to complete the task. Then the results were almost identical when powering both MacBooks on and then off. And I did notice that the M2 was a tiny bit faster when opening applications, but overall, the results were about the same. In conclusion, I don't want to keep using this word, but I do love the M2 MacBook Air, especially the new design and finish, and it is a powerful computer. So if you're looking for a portable device to do basic work or study, watch videos, text editing, I would say that this is the perfect choice for you. Now, of course, if you need to do higher-end workflows, heavy video editing, I would probably choose the 14 or 16-inch MacBook Pro. But that's it for today, you guys. Let me know down below in the comments if you have any questions. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed yet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.